to one of Sean's teams. Let's move on to the Sacramento Kings, who I think were. Oh no, they were.
Town.
Let me see if I can find him on here. Sacramento
Let
Kings.
me tell you this. I'll start with the Kings.
Okay.
One of my bigger their offseason has grown on me rapidly throughout the offseason. And for obvious reasons and less obvious reasons. One, I think the Keegan Murray one is the obvious one, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was so impressive in Summer League. And he really cemented the things that ended up putting him in that top 5 discussion, like in Summer League. He's so ready offensively. Just in general, like his skill set is so well defined what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've told you this before, I think in our last 2 streams, like he is my sleeper pick, and I don't even know if sleep fair anymore for Rookie of the Year, just because I think he's going to put up points because he's so efficient at scoring. One thing that has grown on me, though, is their other 2 signings. I really like the Kevin Huerter signing for some reason. Like, I think he's like a really solid role player and somebody that this team could use. And same thing for Malik Monk. Like, Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter are not as different as people think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Minus the fact that I would argue Malik Monk's like dynamicness is a lot higher, if that's a word, dynamicness. Mm-hmm. I might have just made that up, but it's more just the scoring, the potential. This is one of those teams where if you look at the roster, there's not a lot of guys I don't like. Like, that's the thing that keeps growing on me with this team. Yeah. They have a lot of guys that I would want on my team. Like, I would want to see Kevin Huerter on my team. I would like to see Malik Monk, Davion Mitchell, any of those guys, dude. And that's the thing. Like, team that could and should make a move at some point because they have so many guards and they've kind of drafted in funky ways.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think we can hold mistakes of last season against this offseason, and that's like the Tyrese Halliburton trade, right? Yeah. Like, that trade was bad in the sense that to be there, and he was arguably a much more valuable player long-term than somebody like De'Aaron Fox is, or even maybe Sabonis is, right? The problem is they already did that. So are we going to hold it against them? They're building a team with what they have now, and I love the Keegan Murray fit next to Sabonis, whereas I did not really like it when they first made that pick.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I'll say about, so where do you rank them in terms of the tier list?
I would say, oh man, this one's kind of tough. I'd probably put them in like the solid because Don just said it in the chat. He thinks they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're a play-in team. I think they're very close to a play-in team.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things where, again, it's going to depend on some of their younger dudes taking a leap. I would say solid. It's not good enough to be a good offseason.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about that. I think that this was a solid offseason as well. I think a lot of people, when the Keegan Murray trade, and you're probably one, or the Keegan Murray selection, and it sounded like you were one of them as well, they were left a little bit flat, right? Because everyone was like, oh, they should have taken Ivy. They should have,
or at least gotten a trade for Ivy.
The trade for Ivy. And I think a lot of people underestimate Keegan Murray. I really like his game. I think he's a solid player. I think he won MVP of the Summer League, if I'm not mistaken.
He did indeed.
And so I actually liked him a lot, out of Iowa. Watching him a little bit more just because, our friend Josh is a huge Wisconsin. So I was obviously watching Johnny Davis because he was another name that was kind of up there. It's like, oh, he could be up there as a top 5 pick. And so, watching him, I really fell in love with Keegan Murray. I loved his game. Again, he is a guy that I don't think the Kings made a mistake on drafting him. Whereas, the couple years back, obviously we can talk about the Bagley trade and we can talk about that ad nauseum. And kind of toot our own horns. Definitely. Or inflate our own ego, right? Where we have these big heads. But, those were obviously really questioned, head-scratching moves. Obviously, to me, the Halliburton trade was a head-scratching move. But like you said, I think this roster is solid. They have some good pieces around them. They obviously brought in Monk. They brought in Kevon Huerter. And so I'm excited for this team. I'm excited for this team. And I think Keegan Murray will potentially be up there, like you said, for Rookie of the Year. And so I have to go with solid offseason. Again, I want to see a little bit more. I'm not sure if they're necessarily a playoff team or even a play-in team, but they're definitely close in getting to that spot. I still think that they're one piece away. And I'm not a huge guy. I'm not a huge De'Aaron Fox guy. But
Me
if
either.
they can add someone else to this roster, maybe in the next year or two, things could be looking pretty nice for the Sacramento Kings team and go back to where they were in those early 2000 series against the Lakers. That's what I want to see from the Kings again. So
On solid
solid.
too. I think so far they're the best solid offseason we've seen. Last thing for this team too. You know me, Bernie. I have no intel. I don't know anybody in the league. It's more just I read the tea leaves. I listen and I watch a lot of NBA stuff. I read everything for every team. All right. Honestly, don't think. I think there was a chance Detroit would have taken Keegan Murray at 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what forced Sacramento's hand. And I think that at the moment it happened, I held it against them very strongly that they picked Keegan Murray where they did, seeing as I thought they could have gone back and gotten him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think in retrospect, I really think the Pistons were going to take him at 5. So if it was one of those situations where like they traded back to 6 or 7 with Portland or whatever to take Keegan Murray there, I don't think they would have gotten him. I really don't. So I've had to lessen my dislike of that pick a lot since it happened. Not only because of his performance and just like how he's looked, but just in general, from what I've seen, I think that there were other teams that were going to make that move for him.
Yeah,